All right, y'all, welcome back. This video hopefully is going to be pretty quick, but I do want to touch on the subject that we've talked about several times, Tennessee scheme changes in 2025. Now, for the people who have been on this channel, number one, thank y'all for rocking with us for such a long time. Y'all have already heard me talk about this probably 500,000 times, but we do have a really big influx of new people watching this channel. And I have seen here recently on VolQuest, there was a thread that was started asking about Tennessee scheme change. Someone brought this channel up, so shouts out to you. But, I figured that this is a good time for us with all the new people that will be joining us for 2025's football season for us to just break this down very, very briefly so that we're all on the same page. But y'all please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And the first thing that we'll talk about is just Tennessee's total offense. Like, what does it look like? How does it operate? And we'll do that very, very briefly. But over the course of this video, we will be talking about 2021 to 2024, mostly with Tennessee's vertical passing game and why the offense needed a change and what the changes will look like based off of that. So number one, Tennessee runs those wide splits. Everyone knows that. But really what that means is the only places that we can go is vertical, which Tennessee loves to go vertical. That's the main point of this offense. But vertical or to the inside. You can't really run too many outbreaking routes whenever your splits are super duper wide. Now in 2021, 2022, we did run more out routes, more slants than what we did in 2023 and 2024. But I think that was mostly just Alex Golish understanding that you can't just run the same stuff over and over and over again. But this is what our routes pretty much look like. Like, this is mostly what Tennessee has run for the past couple of seasons, especially last year. Just like a straight vertical route, which y'all can see down here. My hat's kind of covering that up, or like some sort of a comeback. So that could be like a deep comeback that looks like it's going to be just like a straight vertical route, or it could be a quick one, which is a hitch. But, up top, we have a dig. And outside of that, that's mostly what we ran. I mean, we would run every now and then. And I'm talking about maybe the route was run maybe 20 times the whole daggum season last year. Slants, drags. I think we only ran like 5 drags all of last year. Like, just kind of like basic stuff that you would think that every single offensive system would run. Tennessee didn't really do it. This is what our route tree looked like. Very, very vertical, wanting to go deep. That's the main point of this offense. Yes, we used to run that tempo. I'll talk a little bit about why we can't run it as much here recently. But the next part of what I want to talk about is the different safety look. And that's going to really kind of like dictate why Tennessee's tempo has slowed down. So this is a zero safety look. And this could be several different coverages where they're just showing that there's not any safeties playing deep. The spots that y'all see in that gold and blue, those are the empty spots just based off of Tennessee's system and how we spread things out. It's deep. The deep stuff is definitely there, and then you've got some inside stuff. Now, with Tennessee's system, okay, and, versus this cover 0, versus cover 1, versus the man looks, that's what Tennessee wants, especially coming up to the line of scrimmage back in 2021, 2022, which is where this picture is from. Teams were coming up with their cornerbacks tight on the outside, and we could find ways to just run straight past them, especially with these stacked up looks. But anyway, I'm not going to go too deep into all the X's and O's and things like that. But let me definitely tell y'all, though, that this is what we want to see. The only problem with the zero deep safety look is it typically means that pressure is coming. But if the pressure gets picked up, you will find somebody open, okay? You will definitely, someone's always going to be open versus this sort of a look. And it's easier just to 1, 2, 3, throw it up deep, which Tennessee also did a much better job of in 2022 and 2021 versus 23 and 24. That's more so based off of the calls and the way that defenses played us, so on and so forth. But let's go on to the next look. All right, so this is a one deep safety look. That's the guy that's circled in red right there. Those blue and gold areas, that's where the openings are. This could be cover 1. This could be, it could be a lot of different coverages, but typically it's going to be cover 1 or cover 3. You don't really want to try to run versus this sort of a look. Same thing with like a zero deep safety look. Those are more passing looks. So teams will typically pass as soon as they see, hey, this is a one safety high. Now, this is back in 2022, I think. You can see that those cornerbacks are still playing our wide receivers tight up at the line of scrimmage, and we can get our roll on versus this sort of a look. So based off of, how Tennessee lines up, which here, down at the bottom, you can see that we've actually got tighter splits so we can run some outs. That just goes back to my point about goals. I think that he did a much better job with this offense, at least up to this point. But yes, I mean, there's a lot of things there that the vertical game is most definitely there. So understanding that, right? And now this is a 2 deep safety look. Those are the holes. It's not very many. Now, in some situations, those cornerbacks, you can see that they're playing off. If the cornerbacks play off, then yeah, you might have some underneath stuff. But who's to say that the guys that are kind of like overhanging players, that they won't drop out to that flat area, which would be, like the underneath hitches and things like that. So it's a lot more difficult to throw versus the 2 deep safety look. And the only real deep place that you could throw it to is deep over the middle. And you got to set that up with the route combinations, so on and so forth. Those little spots on the outside, those are tight windows. Yes, it's there, but it's a tough throw. So typically teams just run versus look. This is whenever teams see that too deep look, you typically want to run. You can see that this box is pretty light. There's really only 5 in there. This is a tight front. So versus a 3-3-5, and this is something else that I've also seen very quickly. I'm just going to touch on this. The 3-3-5 doesn't give Tennessee trouble because almost everybody these days runs some version of the 3-3-5. It's what version are they running? If it's a tight front, if it's a mint front, it's harder to run the football right at that. And we have a whole video breaking that down. And obviously, as we get further into this, y'all will see how it gets even more difficult to run on those types of fronts. But Tennessee's done a much better job of it, which I think that you got to give those guys, that offensive line and Dylan Sampson and all of our running backs last season, give them a lot more credit than maybe what you even thought, because it wasn't easy, because teams were doing things like this with the 3 deep safety look. And versus a 3 deep safety look, these are the only places that Tennessee could throw the football to, because we have really, really wide splits. We can't run any outs. So that just takes away everything. Teams figured that out. They said, okay, well, all we got to do is just play it deep. That takes away that deep ball. There's only 2 places that they can actually throw the football to. And then they also, this guy that's circled in that orange, he's showing deep, but on the snap of the football, he could come up and help out in the box versus the run. Teams did that to us, and that really made us struggle. Not terribly, because we could still run the football, but we could have done so much better if we could get some more like normal types of looks. And then that other little orange circle, that's just showing where the Joker, who is like a stand-up linebacker, kind of like Tennessee's Leo, that's where he would be standing at if this was a mint front. So right now, this is just a tight front. All right. And why that matters is versus the tight front, really even more so versus that mint front. You want to be able to run to the outside, which is what I'm showing here with those red arrows. You want to be able to run outside zone and stretch plays. All right. So moving on. This is the last one, and the only reason I'm even showing y'all this is just because once we actually jump into the stats, you might see a 4 deep safety look, but that's what this would be. This is just heading into half, heading to the end of a game. The team is saying, hey, we just don't want you to score 6. It's all right if we give up 3 or something underneath, but we don't give up 6 at all costs. That's really all that means, and you rarely ever see that. So with all those things being said, let's go ahead and jump into these stats so that I can show you, now that we know how the different safeties, safeties look for different defenses and things like that, which we're not going to get into the coverages. But let me show you, what these stats actually break down as. So this is going to be over here in this column. It's going to show you that the number of safeties. This one shows you the players' names, and this one shows you the season. So we have things organized based off of the dropbacks by these quarterbacks in each of these seasons and how many times they threw the football, and not even threw it, how many times they drop back, which, because you could drop back and you could, scramble or whatever, drop back and get sacked or fumble, whatever. So how many times they drop back versus these different types of looks that we just went over. So with the one high safety look, like we said, it's much easier to operate with that, especially vertically down the field. Hendon Hooker saw the most of that. Okay, so 2022 right here and 2021. He saw it more than either of our other 2 quarterbacks. Now with cover 1 for Joe Milton back in 2023, you can see 189 times. So the number starts to come down as we get closer to 2024 and really 2025. And Nico saw it the absolute least at 173 times. Now with the 2 deep safety look, Nico saw that more than any other quarterback, 164. So that's just showing you the total flip of how teams wanted to try to play us. It was all about, hey, we're going to man up, play really tight, sticky coverage, and try to get pressure, instead of we're just going to kind of sit back. So you're starting to see that the sit back thing, you're starting to understand how that looks. So Nico saw the most 2 deep safety look. Joe Milton saw it the second most back in 2023. And then we'll skip on down. So Hendon Hooker, 2022, saw it the third most, and then 2021 barely ever really saw it. Saw it a lot less than what the other quarterbacks did. Okay, so now let's talk about the 0 safety look. Okay, if I say cover 2 or if I say cover 0, just know I'm just talking about how many safeties and not the actual coverage. But Hendon Hooker, he saw more cover 0 he saw more 0 safety looks than any of our other quarterbacks, which, again, easier to operate, especially down the field, vertical passing game, pretty much wide open. And then also 2021. And then we can see that Joe Milton, he only saw it 65 times. And then Nico only saw it 60 times. So, again, things just totally flipped. Now with that 3 deep safety look, Nico saw that 48 times. So 2024, we saw that. And that's just Nico. Some of the other quarterbacks might have seen it too. But just with these quarterbacks, Nico saw it 48 times. And then we'll come on down to Joe Milton in 2023. He saw it 19 times. And Hendon Hooker in 2021, he saw it 11 times. And the last one with Hendon Hooker right here, 2 times. Okay, so 2022, the record-breaking season, he only saw that 3 deep safety look twice. So this is what the problem has been with Tennessee's offense, y'all. That's the main thing that I wanted to highlight, is that it's not so much about, really what Tennessee's doing is what Tennessee isn't doing, which is finding a counter to the way the teams have changed up how they're playing us. This is chess, not checkers. So these are the changes that we think is going to be coming in 2025. Number one, normal and or tight splits. That just means that we can open up that route tree, run some outbreaking routes, run some double moves with those outbreaking routes. And that's going to change how defenses play us, because now they have to honor us. Like they can't just play us deep, because if we have normal splits, then now there's more holes in that defense. So that's going to be number one. And also, I think that Tennessee will be running more pistol. That's like a pro style set. So, I think that would help out with everything that we're going to be talking about on this list. Number two, a lot more underneath routes. Like we said, man, Tennessee really, it's just our entire route tree was very, very basic last year, like for the past couple of years. There's no reason that we can't just do some slants, which is quick. It's a 3-step drop, snap the ball, boom, 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 throw it on that slant, or like a drag. Drags can be pretty quick too. Or like we said, if we have better splits, tighter splits, we can run some outs. It could be speed outs. Those are quick. So Tennessee really just didn't even have like a 3-step drop game. Like we had no real quick game outside of like the wide receiver quick screens. That was Tennessee's quick game. You have to open things up a lot more than that, because now defenses have figured out how to slow down what we do. So I have so much confidence just with these first couple of things, because it's just a counter to what teams were doing to us previously. But number 3 is going to be a real route, or, run real route combinations. What I mean by this is Tennessee's passing game is just based off of option routes, choice routes. What that means is that, we're going to have like a two route read for the quarterback, and it's really only going to be on one side. So you have 2 wide receivers on this one side, and you're watching them to see, what routes will they run. Now, the routes that they do run, that choice part of it is based off of the coverage that the defense plays. So from that standpoint, the defense can dictate what Tennessee does. If they're playing deep, that means that the choice routes are going to be something underneath, right? Like 9 times out of 10, that's just how that works. So not to go too deep into how all that works, we actually have a whole video breaking that thing down too. But having some real route combinations with everything else that we just talked about previously, it keeps the defense honest so that they can't just play us one set way and slow down everything that we like to do. Last thing is going to be with Tennessee's running game. We touched on this. Outside zone and stretch plays, that's really good versus those mint fronts. That's what Tennessee struggles more versus. And we did a good job versus Georgia. Georgia likes to run it. But last season, I think that we ran the football on Georgia very well. And we did some outside zone there. I don't think that we ran too many stretch plays. But Tennessee has, we did a little bit of it, just very, very little bit of it last year. But typically, Tennessee just runs right up the middle. So inside zone, some sort of power that just goes right smack dab up the middle. But I know that some of this stuff might not totally make sense, but that's why you got to go back and watch those other videos. It's just like scheme stuff. Again, this is chess. It's not checkers. You have to understand the answers to the, problems that these teams are giving us. And it's not to say that our coaching staff didn't have the answers. I just don't think that we had worked on those things for whatever reason. You would think it'd be pretty easy just to install some slants, but either way, Tennessee will have the answers to everything now. I think that the tempo can come back, just because the tempo was based off of, catching the teams and the types of looks that we wanted, where we could dictate terms to them. Now that they've been dictating terms to us, we have to slow down and figure out, hey, where are all of our options out at, and what do we want to run here? So I think that for all those reasons, Tennessee's going to be perfectly fine. Our base system can still work if we have a counter, and I think that it works even better with that tempo. Spread things out wide, go fast, come back tight, and then, maybe even shift and all of that type of stuff. And then, Joey Aguilar, he's going to pick up on Tennessee's base system pretty easily, just because it's very easy to pick up. But also, he's run pistol previously. Some of this other stuff, man, like faking runs and actually turning your back to the defense, putting the football in that running back's belly, it makes the linebackers, safeties, all those people have to bite up. And then you could throw it over their heads off of like a real boot, play action sort of a deal. Whereas before, previously, just running out of that shotgun, the only thing that we could do is just, fake it, just like put it there, and you're not really fooling anybody. Teams kind of stop biting on that. So for all of those reasons, I think that Tennessee's offense is going to be very good, better than people think, because they're expecting that it's going to look exactly how it did last season. But with the changes, we will, put up great numbers. Very similar to what we saw 2021, 2022, because it was more so just about the scheme and, having that counter, or having something that teams couldn't stop. Now that we have the counter, it just goes right back to pretty much teams won't be able to stop it. So looking forward to it, but y'all please do us a favor. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Leave your thoughts down in that comment section, and we'll be talking to y'all tomorrow. Thanks, peace. Thanks for watching, and please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.